us. I'm Sid.
And I'm Serena.
How are you today, Serena?
I'm very well.
Are you excited about our story today?
I am.
It's kind of an interesting story because it's an introduction story, and from this story we'll be reading many other stories that are related to it. This story is an Arab folktale, and it's called The Arabian Nights. And when we get to the end of the story, you will see how other stories will come from this story. Okay, so The Arabian Nights.
All right.
The ancient kingdom of the Sassanidai reigned for about 400 years, from Persia to the borders of China, beyond the great river Ganges. There are stories written which praise one of the kings of this time, who was said to be the best monarch or sultan of his time. His subjects loved him, but his neighbors feared him. And when he died, he left his kingdom in a more prosperous and powerful condition than any king had done before him. The king's two sons loved each other tenderly. The eldest son was called Shahryar, and the younger son Shahzaman. Their father had left almost everything to the eldest son, and this son felt badly about this. So after 10 years, Shahryar cut off the country of Great Tartary from the Persian Empire and made his brother sultan of that land.
Oh,
That was nice of him.
okay. It was.
Now, the Sultan Shahryar, the elder brother, had a wife whom he loved very much. He loved her more than all the world. And his greatest happiness was to surround her with splendor, to give her the finest dresses and the most beautiful jewels. He's a sultan. He's got lots of money. It was therefore with the deepest shame and sorrow that he accidentally discovered after several years that she had deceived him completely, and her whole behavior turned out to have been so bad that he felt himself obliged to carry out the law of the land and order the Grand Vizier to put her to death.
Oh,
Boy, different times.
thankfully different.
His Shahrazar's disappointment was so great that his mind almost went mad, and he declared that he was quite sure that in reality all women were as wicked as his wife, the Sultana, and that the fewer women the world contained, the better. So every evening he married a fresh wife, and then he had her strangled the following morning before the Grand Vizier, whose duty it was to provide these unhappy brides for the Sultan. The poor Vizier fulfilled his task with reluctance.
No kidding.
But there was no escape, and every day he saw a new girl married and then dead. This behavior caused the greatest horror in the town. Oh, well, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
Where everyone was very upset and afraid. In one house, there was a father weeping for the loss of his daughter. In another, a mother trembling for the fate of her child. And instead of the blessing that had formerly been heaped upon the Sultan's head, everyone began to curse the Sultan.
The Grand Vizier himself was the father of two daughters, of whom the elder was called Scheherazade, and the younger Dinarzade. Dinarzade had no particular intelligence or beauty to distinguish her from the other girls, but her sister Scheherazade was very, very clever and courageous. Her father had given her lessons with the best masters in philosophy, medicine, history, and the fine arts.
Oh, she's smart.
Yeah, and besides all this, her beauty excelled that of any girl in the kingdom of Persia.
Of course.
One day, when the Grand Vizier was talking to his eldest daughter, who was his delight and pride, Scheherazade said to him, "Father, I have a favor to ask of you. Will you grant it to me?" "I can refuse you nothing," replied he. "That is just and reasonable." "Then listen," said Scheherazade. "I am determined to stop this barbarous practice of the sultans, and to free the girls and mothers from the awful fate that hangs over them." "It would be an excellent thing to do," returned the Grand Vizier. "But how do you propose to accomplish it?" My father, answered Scheherazade, it is you who has to provide the Sultan daily with a fresh wife, and I implore you, by all the affection you have for me, to allow the honor of marrying the Sultan to fall upon me.
Is she crazy?
Oh, have you lost your senses? Cried the Grand Vizier, starting back in horror. What has put such a thing into your head? You ought to know by this time what it means to be the Sultan's bride. Yes, my father, I know it well, replied she, and I am not afraid to think of it. If I fail, my death will be a glorious one, and if I succeed, I shall have done a great service to my country.
Oh, let's hope she's successful.
It is of no use, said the Grand Vizier. I shall never consent. If the Sultan was to order me to plunge a dagger in your heart, I should have to obey. What a task for a father! Ah, if you do not fear death, fear at any rate the great sadness you would cause me. Once again, my father, said Scheherazade, will you grant me what I ask? What? Are you still so stubborn? Exclaimed the Grand Vizier. Why are you so resolved upon your own death?
But the maiden absolutely refused to listen to her father's words. And at length, in despair, the Grand Vizier was obliged to give way to his daughter's wish, and went sadly to the palace to tell the Sultan that the following evening he would bring him Scheherazade. The Sultan received this news with the greatest astonishment. How have you made up your mind, he asked, to sacrifice your own daughter to me? Sire, answered the Grand Vizier, it is her own wish. Even the sad fate that awaits her could not hold her back. Let there be no mistake, Vizier, said the Sultan. Remember, you will have to take her life yourself. If you refuse, I swear that your head shall be the price. Wow. Sire, returned the Vizier, whatever the cost, I will obey you. Though a father, I am your subject. So the Sultan told the Grand Vizier he could bring his daughter as soon as he liked. The Vizier took back this news to Scheherazade, who received it as if it had been the most pleasant thing in the world. She thanked her father warmly for yielding to her wish, seeing him still bowed down with grief, told him that she hoped he would never regret allowing her to marry the Sultan. Then she went to prepare herself for the marriage, and begged that her sister Dinarzade should be sent for her to speak to her. When they were alone, Scheherazade said to her younger sister, My dear sister, I want your help in a very important matter. Our father is going to take me to the palace to marry with the Sultan. When His Highness receives me, I shall beg him, as a last favor, to let you sleep in our chamber so that I may have your company during the last night I am alive. If, as I hope, he grants me my wish, be sure that you wake me an hour before the dawn, and beg me to tell you, before the sun rises, one of the charming stories I so often used to tell you at home. Then I shall begin telling you a story, and I hope in this way to deliver the people from the terror that reigns over them. Dinarzade replied that she would do this with pleasure.
Okay.
Good sister.
When the usual hour arrived, the Grand Vizier took Scheherazade to the palace and left her alone with the Sultan, who ordered her to raise her veil and was amazed at her beauty. But seeing her eyes full of tears, he asked what was the matter. Sire, replied Scheherazade, I have a sister who loves me as tenderly as I love her. Grant me the favor of allowing her to sleep this night in the same room with us, as it is the last we shall be together.
Oh, very sad.
Shahryar consented to Scheherazade's petition, and Dinarzade was sent for. An hour before daybreak, Dinarzade awoke and exclaimed as she had promised, My dear sister, if you are not asleep, tell me, I pray you, before the sun rises, one of your charming stories. It is the last time that I shall have the pleasure of hearing you." Scheherazade did not answer her sister, but turned to the Sultan. "Will your Highness permit me to do as my sister asks?" said she. "Willingly," he answered. So Scheherazade began. "The king is so curious about how the story ends that he postpones her execution in order to hear the conclusion. The next night, as soon as she finishes the tale, she begins another one, and the king, eager to hear the conclusion of that tale as well, postpones her execution once again. This goes on for 1001 nights. Hence the name of the most famous Arabic tale, 1001 Nights.
Wow, she was pretty smart.
Pretty clever, I'd say, yes.
So that is the end of the introduction to Arabian Nights. And so what follows are, I don't know if there's actually 1001 stories written, but we've got a lot of them. And so we're going to read over the coming weeks and months, we will read some of Scheherazade's stories. So maybe we'll put them in a separate playlist for you so they're easy to find. And maybe you can watch them all at once. Or maybe not. That'll be a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, she was pretty smart.
She was. She was.
So come back and listen to the rest of those stories and check out some of our other stories on Story Sauce. And please, if you do like the videos, please subscribe. If you subscribe, that will allow us to continue making lots more videos for everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.